What's up, Falcon fans? On today's episode in Week 6 for the preview against the Carolina Panthers, can the Atlanta Falcons not fall into the trap game? If you guys like this type of content, hit that like button. If you guys hate this type of content, hit that dislike button or hurt your boy's feelings. Well, maybe just a little bit. But if you want to do a huge favor for your boy by hitting that subscribe button, or how about the empire grow? So on that note, let's just dive into the Atlanta Falcons situation. Kirk Cousins had his best performance in his entire career last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he threw for 509 passing yards and 4 touchdowns in the air. Now, the second best game he ever had was back in 2022, I think around December, in Week 15 against the Indianapolis Colts in overtime, where he threw for over 460 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns in the air, where the final score was 39-36. All I'm saying right now is that he's not going to slow down, hopefully. Now, he's been averaging over 230 passing yards per game, usually a touchdown in the air as well, so things are looking really good for him because he has arsenal of weapons that the Atlanta Falcons have been gathering for many years in the first round and etc. Like Drake London, who's been facing primary corners, and Joey Porter, Darian Slay, Jalen Watson, Paulson Adiblo, and Zayn McCollum, who are all pretty good corners in their own right. Now, usually Drake London averages 10 targets per game, but also he at least gets 6 receptions per game as usual, and he has 3 touchdowns in the air so far this season. Pretty good stuff. So when it comes to Darnell Mooney's side of the ball, he does a pretty good job against his primary corners in Dante Jackson, Quinyon Mitchell, Trent McDuffie, Marshawn Lattimore, and Jamel Dean, where he was usually targeted at least 6 receptions or more, but his receptions ratio is very interesting because one game he can definitely take it to the top with at least 10 receptions, or sometimes he gets shuts out in the reception department where he gets less than 5 receptions. But the only time he really been terrible was against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 1, where the entire Atlanta Falcons looked pretty terrible. But besides that, he's really good. He usually averages 50 yards per reception in the air, and he has 3 touchdowns to boot. So it really just depends on how the Atlanta Falcons want to use Darnell Mooney in. So when it comes to the tight end position on Kyle Pitts, it seems like Raheem Morris is still trying to figure out how to use Kyle Pitts to his full capacity with this team. So when it comes to the running attack for the Atlanta Falcons, it's been kind of disappointing. We usually average 80 yards per game, besides Week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles, where we had over 150 plus rushing yards, but besides that, it's been kind of lacklustering. Now, Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier are both capable running backs, can easily get over 100 rushing yards at any given time, but unfortunately right now, they're just not finding the correct holes, not enough big explosive plays for them to go down the field. Nice short first down gains. It's really nice, but we're looking for the explosive plays, and it's just not happening right now at this time and points. I will have to call this defense bend but not break, because they do an excellent job against the pass. We hardly ever allow any quarterbacks to throw over 300 yards against us in the air. Excellent job. Now, the only time we did poorly was against Baker Mayfield, where he threw for 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, but we adjusted in the second half of the game to making sure he didn't throw any touchdowns. But that being said, we are goddamn terrible in stopping the run. We average 130 rushing yards per game. That has to stop, because we are just being gashed left and right, outside, inside. But the good thing is we're hardly ever giving up rushing touchdowns to the running backs. Now, for the quarterbacks, that's a different story. Of course, one major concern for the Atlanta Falcons defense is getting pressure on the quarterback and sacking him on the ground. We only have 5 total sacks so far, and when it comes to turnovers, we only have 5 so far. We have 3 interceptions and 2 forced fumbles, and both of those forced fumbles are by Jesse Bates III, the safety. So now let's talk about the Carolina Panthers situation. The Carolina Panthers are 1-4 right now. They have a brand new head coach in David Canellis, where it's not looking good in Carolina, where, Bryce Young was pulled for second string duties, where Andy Dalton now is going to be the starting quarterback for right now. They are dealing with a bunch of injuries. They have a bunch of guys in IR, and some are questionable for this upcoming game. Now, when Andy Dalton got his second start with the Carolina Panthers, he did a pretty good job in Week 3 against the Las Vegas Raiders, where they won 36-22, where he threw for 319 total passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. But after that, against the Cincinnati Bengals and the Chicago Bears, they lost those games truly by over 30 plus points. Half of that has to do with bad quarterback play, and the other half is they don't have the talent to make up for the lost amount of points that the Panthers defense are giving up. But the one good thing about them is their run game is pretty good. They rank number 17 with 554 total rushing yards with 4 rushing touchdowns, and they average over 130 plus rushing yards. Now, their worst rushing attack was 58 total rushing yards, but that was in week 1 against the New Orleans Saints. Chuba Hubbard is becoming a star over there in Carolina. I think this is his 3rd season with them, and for a young guy, he's doing a pretty good job over there. So when it comes to their passing attack, the only wide receiver that the Carolina Panthers have is Deontay Johnson, that the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to trade over to the Carolina Panthers this season. He's been pretty good in his entire career, so he's definitely their leading receiver and all. I think in most categories, he has 2 touchdowns. So we have to make sure that we stop them out all times. So now let's talk about their defensive side of the ball. They're not doing so hot. They ranked number 9 in giving up the most receiving yards in the air with 1,162. They ranked number 1st in giving up the most touchdowns in the air by any quarterback with 11. They average over 230 plus receiving yards given in the air, and they average 2 touchdowns in the air that's given by the quarterback that is allowed. And when it comes to stopping the run, they rank number 27 by giving up 723 total rushing yards. And they also rank number 1 in giving up the most rushing touchdowns with 9. So what is the final verdict? I have the Atlanta Falcons beating the Carolina Panthers 34-17. Now hold up, wait a minute. Remember last year where we went into their house and they were 1-12 at the time and they beat us 9-7? One of the most embarrassing losses in Falcons history recently, in my personal opinion. Disgusting way how we lost that game. Now this can be a trap game. Remember, division rivals, we know each other pretty well, so anything can happen. They can definitely have a Cinderella story and spoil our victories, because remember, last year as well, the Atlanta Falcons were in top of the division and then we started to crumble again. Thanks, Arthur Smith. I really appreciate that. But this is why I say don't take this for granted. The Carolina Panthers will play their hardest against us. There's no question about it. So if you lasted this long to the very end of the video, thank you so much for taking your own personal time and day to watch this video. I have more Falcon videos for you if you guys are interested in. So what do Falcons do? Rise up. Until the next episode, show love and peace to the world, and peace.